I want to start by saying this is a very experimental project for me, which I'm taking on over the Christmas 2022 break. I've done a lot of challenge runs on DS2 over the years, but I never get around to editing them into a manageable video for YouTube. So in this case, I'm doing it in multiple parts, and the completionist in me is going to be forced to do the others before I get distracted and move on to doing something else. On that note, this is my first time doing any real editing either, so please forgive the imperfections, there's going to be a lot of them. You'll probably even be able to tell when I was messing around with different audio settings throughout the run to try and fix the parts that got accidentally chopped by noise filters. Definitely props to anyone who actually does this for a living. It's quite a lot more work than I expected, and trying not to sound like a robot is much harder than it seems. I swear I don't sound like this all the time. If you have any more challenge run ideas, then feel free to post them in the comments. I've done most challenges in DS2, but if there's something unique, I'd definitely be interested in trying it out. And if you like this kind of video, I could try to make a series of challenge completions. Tempted to do another Ladle or Bosses run soon, as that's quite good fun, not nearly as long as this one, so let me know if that's something that sounds interesting. Okay, onto the challenge. The challenge run is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Any item that you can get in the game has been turned into rubbish. This includes any item pickups, any scripted item rewards, any drop from any enemy, all shop items, and character creation and starting gifts. I even changed it so you don't get the dark sign to escape from bad situations. In order to be able to complete the game, some items need to be left unrandomized. There's a few choices for how to implement this decision, but the chosen set seems like a good balance of being challenging and interesting. In this mod, the items that are left unchanged are the key to the King's Passage to get through Dragonslayer Castle, King's Ring to open the Throne of Want, Ashen Mistheart to fight Giant Lord, one Fragrant Branch to open the path to the Shrine of Winter, and one torch to make the Mythic possible. You could remove the torch from this and farm 1 million soul memory in the Covenant of Champions to open the Shrine of Winter without going to Mytha, but this doesn't seem nearly as fun and doesn't lead to as much idea innovation during the run. For reference, I believe the absolute minimum set of items required to complete the game on this patch is just 3, which can be achieved with the Butterfly Pants for party walk skips, still the 1x branch for Rosabeth, and again the Ashen Mistheart to kill Giant Lord, which is required to spawn Nash in order to complete the game. This run is only going to be an any percent completion because I don't think Blue Smelter would ever be possible if you're doing all bosses, but maybe someone has some hidden strats to manage this. If anyone can think of a way of doing it, I would love to hear it. For now though, any percent is more than difficult enough, and I'm not going to give myself any further restrictions. Glitches, exploits and skips are all allowed as long as you're able to do them in the game. Of all the challenges I've done, this is probably the second hardest. I would rate it about 9.5 out of 10 difficulty, and really should only be tried by those extremely comfortable with the game. The mod is made on the back end of the randomizer I've been writing, so it can easily be made available for anyone who, for whatever reason, would like to try this challenge as well. Without further ado, let's dive in. I tried my best to find out where the game adds the imported set to the default character, but I wasn't able to figure it out. I know for sure it's not in the same place that the default items like the Dark Sign are added, so it's probably just hard-coded somewhere. This just means that I need to manually take off this armor set and drop it on the ground to make sure I don't benefit from it. For the character class, the first 2 important levels are Vigor and Strength, and the best class for this is Warrior. We choose this, and we can pick any of the gifts as they're all rubbish, it doesn't really matter. Optimally, I should have chosen Healing Wares, as I would get 5 sets of rubbish that can be sold for 50 souls at Gavlan, rather than 10, but this is a really very minor issue. I ended up forgetting to customize my character as well on this run, which I probably should have done, given how many hours I was going to spend looking at them. But to be honest, the character was going to be fully hollow pretty soon anyway, so we didn't really lose out. Once we finish character creation, we can head towards Dragon Rider for our first soul. With no items available, there will be no healing, no recovering from hollowing, and no weapons, armor or rings. I'll be dealing damage only with my fists and environmental effects wherever possible. I'm also going to be very soul poor in this run, since all the boss souls are turned into rubbish, and I can't pick up any soul items on the ground. On top of this, my progression is severely limited, since any keys which are not strictly required are turned into rubbish, sealing off bosses like Pursuer that I could use for getting souls. The Dragon Rider kill is exactly the same as always, netting us 12,000 souls and opening up Licia. Although it's very easy to punch Licia off the cliff here, her usual drop of the Rotunda Lockstone would be turned into rubbish, and I would be unable to complete the game because I wouldn't be able to get to Huntsman's Copse. Instead, we can just exhaust her dialogue to send her back to Medulla and reluctantly pay her 2,000 souls later on. The first immediate objective in this run is to get to 18 Vigor, as I know this is definitely enough to survive Giant Lord Jump, which is a skip that I need to do whilst I'm not hollowed, and have enough health to survive the full damage. The souls from Dragon Rider aren't quite enough, but thankfully there's plenty of NPC punching bags in Medulla to top it off. You can actually punch the blacksmith to death without letting him get up, but since my damage is so poor and I don't need his drop, it's even easier to just punch him off the cliff and let him die to gravity. With the 18 Vigor sorted, we can head over to Cardinal Tower. Firstly, we need to get back up to full health and then kill the annoying hollow so that we've got the space to set up for Giant Lord Jump. Usually you would have a bow or binos here, but it's not too bad if you just take your time and then free aim it. We don't really need this bonfire for a very long time, but we take it now so that it's out the way, and there hopefully shouldn't be anywhere else where we can get soft locked, as long as the route has been planned out well enough. Although you can't buy a firebomb for the bomb wall skip, you can try to bait this hollow to throw his own at the barrels, but his aim is really bad and he often just falls off the ledge. So with so many enemies around, it's probably better to just give up and move on. Saying that, shoutouts to Silo for reminding me that the turtle has a heavy weapon, so you just need to bait him to attack the barrel, which is way easier to do. Once we've got this wall open, we can get one shot at the 17k glitch. Now, I only get one chance to fight Pursuer in this game, because I can't get to his fight, because I can't get the soldier key because it doesn't exist. I decided to go for the 17k glitch, which, for those who haven't seen it, is a way to essentially drop Pursuer into a kill box. I've shown a picture in the bottom right of a video where it does work. However, in this case, although it looks very similar, it did not work. I did not get the 17,000 soul reward, and therefore I have lost my chance to fight Pursuer, which those 17,000 souls would have been very useful. Since I don't have the Dark Sign though, I have to run all the way back, and this was a bit of a failed attempt, but it was worth a shot. The last giant fight is never really concerning in these runs, since it's a 1v1 fight, and he attacks very slowly. Even though I'm not doing a lot of damage, the danger of getting hit is pretty small. The only attack I'm somewhat scared of is the belly flop or the body slam attack. That's pretty rare, so I'm not too concerned. The strategy to this fight is very simple. You stand next to his feet and bait one of the two stomp attacks, then you just walk away from it whilst regenerating stamina and come back in for a couple of hits. Rinse and repeat. He can also jump back, which is a little annoying, and he ends up being really jumpy in this particular fight, but you just close the distance and try and keep him away from the walls where you can. We get our sweet 10k reward, as well as some rubbish, and the souls go straight into some more levels. Just before we level up though, I thought, why not kill Licia? This is some more money that I can use for souls. She's easy, she doesn't have much HP. But unfortunately for me, I forgot that this NPC curses you in one hit. So then I panicked, I don't want to get cursed because I can't use any effigies, I can't recover from this. Never get my life back. So I try and run, but I can't run, so I end up fighting her. This is just all going very poorly. I get cursed again, unfortunately. And yeah, she only gives 700 souls, so this was a terrible choice. Just in time to move on to the rest of the run. Now double hollow. Wonderful. But first, we get to spend our souls from Last Giant and also Licia. This is all going to be going into strength for quite a while. Here we get a nice 7 AR, and we're moving on to the next boss. The only real choices I have for the next boss are Skeleton Lords and Flexile. Both of them have their own issues. They are both required at some point, as Flexile is guarding the route to Bastille and Skellies is guarding the route to Ironkeep. I have a sneaking suspicion at this point in the run that Skellies could be a bit of a nightmare segment, as I don't have any healing. It's very much a multi-enemy fight, and getting free hits without trading is going to be tough. I decided instead to go to Flexile first. Flexile is meant to be a little bit of a DPS check for casual runs. The arena fills with water if the fight goes on for too long. This really restricts your movement and dodges in the fight, Obviously, I'll be failing this DPS check since I basically do no damage, but thankfully there's a limit to how much water can enter the boat, so you can never actually drown. It does mean I'll be doing the majority of the fight in the water though. The run to Flexile is pretty easy. You can run past every enemy in this arena if you don't have to pick anything up. I didn't fancy a trip down to Gavlan just yet to sell my rubbish for like 200 souls, so I rushed to the lever and pulled it manually. It's been such a long time since I've had to pull this lever manually, because normally you just shoot it with a bow. As it's going to be pretty common in the early stages of this run, at least until I become fully hollowed, I tend to use the first fight at a new boss as a bit of a test run to see what the damage is like, and if there's any bad attacks I can try and learn how to dodge them. Quitting out and then running back to the previous bonfire is the only way I can heal without dying. I do choose to fight both sides of Flexile so the fight doesn't go on for twice as long, but if you're struggling to dodge the sword side, you can just run around and wait for the hammer side. Flexile's got quite a wide move pool, and I only choose to punish the attacks I'm very sure are safe. As the water rises in this fight, I unfortunately can't strafe any more of his attacks and have to resort to rolling. I only have 85 agility, which is the lowest amount of iframes you can get in this game, and I also only have base endurance, so wasting stamina on rolls is quite annoying. It becomes too risky to punch him too much and go into negative stamina. I do take damage every now and again, and it's just a case of really trying to manage my pretty feeble health bar throughout these long fights. This attack in particular has a huge amount of tracking, and is one of those I just try to avoid letting him even do in the first place. I decided to leave this pretty painful death in the footage, just in case you guys are getting a bit too comfortable and start thinking the run's not too bad. It adds more hollowing to my character, and that's health I can never get back, but I still think Flexile is the right call, and we're going for round 3. The fight this time is much smoother overall, and we get through Flexile on the 3rd attempt for a reward of 14,000 souls to the good guys, and unlocked passage into Bastille. The souls from Flexile give us 6 levels of strength, equating to 7 AR or about a 10% damage increase. The levels are going to be going into strength for quite some time now, and the next medium term target is the pretty hard cap at 40 strength. We need to pay Licia 2,000 souls for her to press a button, which would usually be a ripoff, but given that I have no means of obtaining the Rotunda Lockstone in this run, it's pretty beneficial for us in this case. There's a small glitch you can do by jumping or using a gesture whilst paying her, which will get you out of the praying animation. If you then attack her, you can glitch her AI and she'll never be able to retaliate. I actually did this in the first attempt of this run that ended up resetting after dying to Flexile. I couldn't survive the Giant Lord jump anymore, so we had to try again. Punching her to death does take around 7 minutes though, and I couldn't really be else waiting. In retrospect, this was not a very good decision. I didn't realise just how many souls I would need for this run, and how hard they are to come by. If I wanted to kill her in the future, I could pay another 2k souls to glitch her out, but she only gives 2.5k souls reward, so it really wasn't worth it anymore. The nearest bonfire to Skelly's is unfortunately Bridge Approach, which is a bit of a trek away. There's no way of getting Kraton's bonfire because, as you guessed it, the undead lockaway key doesn't exist. It's been transmuted into rubbish. It's time to try the first test fight now. At this point in the run, I'm kind of hopeful that the damage isn't too bad, because I do have a decent 27 strength, and this boss is extremely weak to strike. In DS2, fists are considered strike. You can see how easily you can take damage in this fight though, even when only fighting the lords. There's range attacks flying around and they don't reliably stagger when attacked, and they sidestep at the most inconvenient times. Every fight's just going to be so random and different. You do get to check the bone wheel damage, and 4 attacks is not enough to kill one, so I think it's time to leave and go get the shortcut. Unfortunately, I end up dying when trying to get back to the bonfire. There's just so many enemies around here, and I can't kill them properly because of the necromancer. I wanted to show the path back to the fight that we have to take every time. This is running from Bridge Approach Bonfire via the shortcut, which takes about 1 minute and 20 seconds if everything goes to plan. Along the way, you have to make sure to avoid the curse pot. We have to dodge the first skelly, then some annoying archer, which are notoriously bad in DS2, and then maneuver past the skelly that mech blocks you in the corridor, and finally run to the fog gate. I did consider despawning these enemies because the run back was so annoying, but the skeletons get revived by the necromancer. Now, in hindsight, I really should have just despawned the necromancer, but I thought surely the fight won't be that bad. We're checking in on a fight after about 15 minutes of Skelly Lord resets to see if any strategy is developed yet. I'm clearly still going for some backstab fishing strats, but they're so awkward to hit. I have no idea where their back actually is, and it seems to change depending on what attack they do. Kinda like Free do in Dark Souls 3. But at least the damage for the backstab is nice if you can actually land it. The current strategy seems to be just running around and hoping they separate, and trying to get any damage wherever we can. I've already decided by this point to go for bone wheels first. I did try the other variants, but honestly the bone wheels are probably the least scary enemy in a fight, and just reducing the number of enemies definitely helps out later on. The idea here was to kill one bone wheel, but it was not implemented very cleanly. Trading is basically never worth it in this fight. There's definitely a lack of experience in dealing with the bone wheels in general, but overall this was a pretty representative fight of the era, possibly even better than average. But we're still way off getting past this boss, and remember I'm still not fully hollow yet, so every death is making this fight worse. We're checking back in now at 2 hours to see how the strats are developing. The opening backstab has been learnt, shout out to Silo for that one. Apparently if you backstab them on the first spawn it always works, and this is much safer than opening with 2 R2s. Also, figuring out that running attack plus 1 R2 can keep them staggered is a nice little combo and works on any of the lords. It doesn't look like there's any strategy regarding separating the lords from each other just yet, and some of this decision making is definitely questionable. We're still going backstab fishing occasionally too, which unsurprisingly does not seem to work. I get a little unlucky on the spawn positions here, but again, taking damage is not okay, you just have to be more patient. It does look like we've learnt enough that you can just run around the outside of the arena indefinitely until the bone wheels give you a clean shot. And we've learnt the backstab. Did you know you can backstab bone wheels? Very useful mechanic here. Way easier than backstabbing the Lords also. Unfortunately, still missing a bit of experience on the bone wheel hitboxes, and get a bit too eager this time. Overall though, not a bad attempt. So I decided to give up on Skellies for a while and go and do something else. I could have done Chariot, but that seems awful, so I'm not going to do that. But the other option that is available is Sentinels. I actually thought it was not possible to get to Sentinels this early, which is why I put a second branch into the mod. But that branch is down the gutter and I can't get down there. It's for Sentinels, like, I need either the second branch or the key that gets you to the center. One of the two. However, as Light kindly pointed out back at Flexile... Oh, I can do window skip. I didn't even think of it. There is a somewhat cursed skip you can do called window skip, which avoids both the branch and the antiquated key, and will let you get to Sentinels. After only 3 attempts, we have a go and we get into the window and can go down and open the shortcut so that I can come back here nice and easy next time. I knew Sentinels wasn't going to be an easy fight, but it would be a bit of a break from Skellies, and I was optimistic initially that I could maybe get some progress here. Here's some audio before going into the fight. If I can like 20 or 25 shot them, it might be manageable. Oh, that is not good damage. I decided to see if I could finish the fight anyway. There was no harm in trying, since it didn't matter if I died. And I'm reasonably confident in dodging Sentinels. I've done some tough challenges where I have to dodge these for a long time, so I thought it's worth a shot. The main aim was to keep the first Sentinel on the platform, because I did not want to fight 3 of them. So every time we drop down, I go and wait for them to come back up. And the plan was to kill the first Sentinel, and then try and take on 2-on-1 on the second and third Sentinel on the ground, where I have a lot more space, because fighting them up here would be pretty disastrous. Unfortunately, I fall down, and the fight does not last long. So given that we're getting brick-walled by Skellies and most likely Sentinels as well, given the damage, I thought it was a good time to go and try and get some more souls. I really want to get to 40 strength, because that's the soft or pretty hard cap for when my damage is going to stop going up. And if I can get a bit more damage, maybe the fights will be a bit easier. So in desperation, we try and go farming for some more souls. Here's what we came up with. I've got to say this method is pretty bad, I die a lot, and it's a very inefficient way to get a small amount of souls. But when it works, you can rack up a few souls. At the end of this, we're up to 6k, and now we're moving on. So next we decide to go killing some NPCs. They have a decent amount of souls, it's only a one-time kill, but might as well. The obvious choice is Morlin. He's already killed me once, but we're going to push him off the cliff in the pit and let him die to gravity. Gives us a nice 900 souls to the pile. Next we go over to kill Benhart. Honestly, Benhart was a lot harder than I expected. Probably because there's no gravity to kill him. So instead, I thought I would be inventive and use his Poison Hollow to try and poison him. But this ended up really backfiring because, firstly, the Poison Hollow actually gets hit by Benhart, and secondly, the Poison Hollow's aggro range is somewhere around the bottom of these stairs, so he'll re-aggro if I go over there, so now I've actually just limited my space in fighting him. In the end, we just decide to fight him legit, and kill him with backstabs and a lot of punches. This nets us a reasonably decent 2,000 souls. Next on the slaughter list is Forlorn, who gives a lot of souls. There's actually a scripted invasion here in Huntsman's Copse. The main problem is that I can't stagger him. I absolutely can't punch him to death. He has way too much HP. Parrying him doesn't seem like a great idea with my fists, but I guess it is an option. But I thought a better strat would be to try and guard break him off the cliff. And by some kind of miracle, we managed to get it on the second try. This nets us a nice 6,000 souls. So far from all this farming, we've managed to get up to 31 strength. I would like the extra 3 frames of agility, but 6 ADP is not enough, so instead we go for 32 strength. But we still need another 8 levels to get to 40. The next port of call was to try to get to Ornstein. I believe I could probably beat the Ornstein boss with my fists. The trouble is getting there. There's a lot of enemies around this area, which are very hard to kill, especially the Hide Knights. So I'm trying here a strategy where you run up to the dragon immediately and then quit out in an attempt to de-aggro some of the knights from coming to you. In this case, it didn't actually stop either of the 2 Hide Knights from coming here, but it did stop the armored old knights from arriving, so at least there were only 2 enemies to deal with. I try and let the dragon kill them, but it's kind of difficult to stay alive on this platform for very long. After quite a while, we managed to figure out a few strategies. We can get the first Hide Knight off the cliff here, because their pathing is really bad. And then all we need to do is run past this one, do the same quit out strategy as before. This is now to de-aggro the old armored knights. And when we load back in, we need to try and bait this pike knight off the cliff. Ideally, with the triple combo, you can get him to jump off the cliff. Here, he does a different attack, but for some reason he still falls off, so that's convenient. The fight against Guardian is not very difficult, since all he will do is stomps in this case. We just need to punch him to death. I've chopped out the middle 2 minutes of this pretty long 3-minute fight, and once we get past him, we get 4,000 souls, and we can move on to the boss. The Ornstein fight is never going to be too bad in challenge runs. It's a one-on-one fight with no real time limit, and in a pretty generous arena. All of his attacks can be strafed, so agility is not a problem either, and he doesn't have that much HP. Even so, I'm only doing 39 damage per R2, which is pretty miserable. After a while, I figure out exactly how many R1s or R2s to squeeze in after every attack, so it's just a standard case of playing safe and patiently. I want to make sure to roll all of his attacks if I'm out of position or a little late of my punishments, just to be sure I don't get hit. He does have a tendency to idle for quite a while, trying to bait you into attacking him, but it's really not worth it. It's better to just wait out these phases and play on your own terms. Finish this fight in 8 minutes after having 2 deaths and net ourselves a very welcome 20,000 souls. It's been about 3 hours since we last killed a boss, which was all the way back at Flexile. With these souls we managed to get another 6 levels of strength, which actually increases my strength bonus the most, between 30 and 40, just because of the way levels work in this game. And since 5th scale with strength, we get a full 11 AR for this. Unfortunately, we end up taking full damage on the approach to Sentinels, and then we take full damage within the Sentinels fight, so I can only afford to get hit once in the entire fight, since I'm already at only 50% HP. Honestly, the extra attack is really helping with these fights now. The detailed Ornstein was definitely worthwhile, but we're still running into the same issues with not having any HP. There's just no margin for error in any of these fights, and they go on for so long. At this point I'm trying both Sentinels and Skellies, but neither of them are looking promising. There's not really any alternative bosses that I can go to kill. But the fights are slowly getting better. Against Skellies we're getting to phase 2 on most fights, and even phase 3 versus the small skeletons every so often. They're really hard to kill though without taking any damage. I spent about another 45 minutes at Skellies trying to kill them before finally deciding that my chances were better at Sentinels. Killing the first Sentinel on the platform was a little claustrophobic at times. There's not a lot of space up there and it was quite slow. But generally it wasn't too bad. The main issue with the fight was obviously the 2v1 on the ground. Thankfully all the attacks can be pretty easily strafed or kited if I can get out of range. And even if it comes to it, I can roll them if I have to at 85 agility. It's not too bad. Once the fight gets back down to one Sentinel, it's pretty trivial. Just play it safe and slow, make sure you don't get hit. We ended up beating them on the 7th attempt in a 9.5 minute long fight and getting our 33,000 souls as reward. I'm pretty sure by this point in the run that any one-on-one fight I can do is better than any multi-enemy fight. Seems pretty obvious to do Sinner next, especially because the rewards are going to be much higher. They can be put to good use for Sentinels. On the way there I decided to kill some of these hollows which are in the way, and for whatever reason these things get one shot by fists and yet still give 260 souls, which is quite a lot when I'm very poor. At the time, running through here, I did realize it was quite an unusually high reward for killing these. I didn't think too much of it. I had just unlocked, without knowing at the time, what came to be called the Bastille Farm Loop, which is going to be used a lot throughout this run. I won't show all of the times I come back here, but whenever I end up leveling up, most of the time I'll do a quick loop of this Bastille Farm, just to top up my souls, and it should 2,000 or 3,000. You can actually get 4,000 on this loop. And then just get one more level to try and get over the next AR boundary before I lose my souls again. Wasn't really sure how many attempts Sinner would take. I suspected it wouldn't take too many, but given how annoying it is to get onto this elevator without taking damage, I thought I'm just going to kill the enemies on the way there, and if it takes a lot of times then they'll despawn, so that's fine. And if it doesn't, then at least I'm getting some souls for killing them, and I get to go into Sinner with full HP. The Sinner fight is not too bad. You can strafe pretty much all of her attacks. You need to roll a few times if you're out of position or if she's doing some weird sidestep attack, or if you attack a bit too late and you can't like get round behind her in time. I actually took a really rough death here. This was one of the first times I'd died so late into the fight and choked. I knew it was possible, obviously after an attempt like this, so just needed to keep calm until the fight is over next time. I came back here on the very next fight and we made it through. The fight took about 4 minutes and overall Sinner only took 4 attempts, which is obviously a lot better than Skellies, which I've already died many times by now. I choose to put all of these Sinner souls straight into Vigor. I've already reached my short-term goals of 40 strength and 86 agility, but I'm nowhere near the Vigor cap, which isn't reached until 50, and it's going to be a stat that's very useful throughout the run, not just at the Skelly Lords fight. Now at this point, there is really nowhere else to go. Skellies are gatekeeping everything else. Of the remaining 3 Lord Souls that I need to get for Shrine of Winter, Old Iron King is obviously behind Skellies on the same path, and then Rotten is down the pit, but I can't get down the pit, so I don't have enough health until I buy a ladder from Gilligan, but Gilligan is behind Skellies, so I can't do that either. And finally, the third option would be to go to do the Freya path, but I can't get to the Freya path because I require a Fragrant Branch, and all the Fragrant Branches are down the pit, and I can't get down the pit because I need Gilligan, which is after Skellies. So all in all, I don't have a choice but to go and do Skellies now. The time has come. I'm coming back now with more HP and more damage. The damage threshold that I've just reached means that I can kill the first Lord with 1 backstab, 1 running attack and an R2, which is great. And then the bone meals go down with 3 R1s or just 1 backstab, so getting to phase 2 is really easy now. The strategies here in this fight are getting better as well. I'm much better at separating the Lords on the pillars now. You can kind of split them, one to go either side, which is pretty effective. And then I'm only using the safe running attack plus R2 combination when they're separated. Second phase armored skeletons are pretty annoying. I would normally try and get down 2 of them on spawn, one with just R1s and the second one with the backstab, but here it doesn't go really very well, and so 4 of them are alive. As you get down to 2 or 3 skeletons, they become a lot easier to separate on the pillars like the skeleton lords, and then you can just deal with them one by one. Once you're down to the last lord, killing him is super easy. You can just do the running attack and R2 combination and just run away afterwards. There's not really anything he can do. The problem is when he spawns in the small skeletons afterwards, it really is just a patience test trying to find any opening for damaging them. The best attack seems to be their rolling attack. If you can get them somehow to separate away from the pack, and then if they do a rolling attack, you can normally get an R2 without taking any damage. You need 2 R2s to kill one of them, so it is just a case of slowly whittling them down. I actually get extremely close to dying in this part. I went back and checked afterwards in meta, and I did only have 5 HP here. Amazingly, it was the first Skelly's attempt after coming back from beating Sinner. So the extra HP that we got from the Sentinels and Sinner detour definitely came in clutch. The final fight came out at 11 minutes and 45 seconds. All in all, we've been at Skelly's for a total of 2 hours and 45 in-game time on this fight, and we got through it on the 32nd attempt. But it has now opened up a lot more options as to where to go, and so we're going to pick a bit of momentum despite having been stuck here for about 5 hours now. Although things are a bit easier for a while now, there's no excuse to pass up on some free NPC souls. Thought I would kill Cloanne. I honestly thought she would die to gravity here, but thankfully there's poison below to finish her off. During the fight, Jabba managed to break one of the pots with the hollows in it, and then he started to eat him, which is pretty good for me. I can just get some free damage when he's distracted. But I didn't realize I actually get the hollow souls when he ends up eating him. So yeah, another plus 60 souls to the good guys. I know Jabba gets a lot of memes in this game for being considered too easy, but he can have some pretty bad hitboxes, and if the fight goes on long enough, I'm probably going to get hit. As I don't know where they all are too well, he dies less than the speedrun. I never really have to learn them. At least on the upside, if I get eaten by him, then it doesn't really do anything, because I don't actually have any gear equipped. Embarrassingly, I did die to Jabba twice before beating him on the 3rd attempt. None of the fights were particularly long though, and now we can move on and spend this 14k souls reward all on ladders. The first thing to do is to go and fetch Gilligan from Earthen Peak. This is quite annoying in Scholar, as they added a lot of mannequin enemies and I really do not want to fight them with my fists. But after getting there and being extorted for 2k to make him speak to us, we can exhaust his dialogue and send him back to Medulla straight away, meaning we don't have to kill Metha just yet, which I'm pretty sure would be impossible since we don't have access to a torch. I do pay the full 12k souls to get the longest ladder down into the pit that I can, but I don't have any full damage reduction gear nor any means of getting any gear. And also my health is really low because of all the hollowing. And so the struggles begin. I'd simply assumed that getting down here with the longest ladder would be possible, and hadn't tested this part before making the mod, so there's definitely potential to get completely stuck at the part. Full damage in Dark Souls 2 when you have low health is pretty brutal because the damage is flat and it's not percent based like in Dark Souls 1. So like any healing here is really going to cause some issues. Thankfully with some extremely careful drops you can just about make it to the ground of the pit without dying. I'd already tested and confirmed that you can get down the scaffolding without taking any damage via some awkward drops onto 2 crossings. And if it really came to it, there's always the long forgotten full damage cancel drop for those that remember the old cat ring skip any percent runs. but trying this without any kind of bow or binos to line up the jump would have been pretty tough. One potential route down would be to pay the 3.5k for the ladder, and then go via the mini-rats bonfire and through the mini-rats fight, but there's no way of avoiding at least some fall damage at the end. Possibly it would have been less, but I didn't end up trying it because killing mini-rats seemed like a terrible idea. It's another one of these multi-enemy fights that I think will just take a very long time. I do have to give a shout out to Cammy for a much better solution to the scaffolding problem though. I guess 8 years playing this game isn't enough to know about these kind of casual strats. I don't think I've ever seen this ladder in my life. But it's an easy and reliable way down without taking damage, so I'll take it. All that's left to do is to get down to the gutter bonfire. But it wasn't looking good. I just need more health to survive these final drops, so we're back to farming. One way I thought it would be good to try and get more souls is to kill the extra pursuers they added in Scholar, as they give 6k each, but this ends up being a lot more trouble than it was worth. Firstly, I don't know how to dodge this weird explosion dark orb curse attack, so that's going to kill me if he does it too often, and my damage is pretty miserable, so I can't kill him fast enough to avoid it. Then I get unbelievably memed on when Pursuer suicides himself and takes me with him. He despawns himself and doesn't actually give me any souls. I tried to go back and check, but fortunately there's nothing there. At this point it feels like we're just permanently trying to find solutions to awkward situations that are arising because all I have is my fists. It might look bad, but you just gotta keep bashing your head against the wall and eventually something good will happen. I'll leave some clips here for your entertainment.
Why? Why do you do it? Why? Why get up? Why keep fighting? You believe you're fighting for something, for more than your survival? Can you tell me what it is? Do you even know?
You must be able to see it, Mr. Anderson. You must know it by now. You can't win. It's pointless to keep fighting. Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?